The following is a presentation of 13ABC Action News. Now, your table is ready. Join 13ABC's Jeff Smith with the decision makers of Northwest Ohio and Southeast Michigan. This is the Roundtable.
Hi there. If you didn't hear me last week, Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much for joining us here on the Roundtable program for this Sunday. We always appreciate your attendance here at the Roundtable. And obviously with the new year upon us, a lot of people out there making New Year's resolutions and trying to stick with them. And one that's, of course, very, very important to all of us are relationships, whether it be through family and friends, what have you. But I found something this week that I wanted to show you there at home. I found it especially interesting. And in fact, in this day and age, how our relationships are shaking down. I entitled this Techno Love because of this report saying how technology is actually creating a problem with our relationships with each other. The question in this article, the editor brings up, he says, are you spending more time with your smartphone than with your partner, even during romantic dates? Interesting question there. He continues to say technology allows us to be constantly connected to the world, but it can also make us even more disconnected from each other. In fact, two recent studies, he points out, show that cell phones can have a negative impact on close relationships. So we get into this topic, and sure enough, wouldn't you know it, here in Northwest Ohio, we've got something happening this week. Heartbeat of Toledo behind this, and we wanted to invite some guests on here to talk about a 6-week program, which is all about having some smarts when it comes to relationship. In fact, entitled Relationship Smarts. I want to introduce my guest to you this afternoon. We start off with Don Madrigal. He is coming to us from Mercy St. V's. We appreciate we appreciate you being here, Don. Absolutely. Community health educator, part of this program of Relationship Smarts. Next to him, Pat Todak. She is the executive director of Heartbeat of Toledo. Welcome to the Roundtable.
Thank you.
On the other side of me, I want to introduce to you Ellen Rimbelski. She came through this program we're going to talk about. It started up in 2011 and is now acting as a volunteer for it. Welcome to you.
Thank you.
Also sitting next to her, Karen Fisher, a local social worker with Heartbeat of Toledo. Heading up this program, I've been talking too much. I've run out of oxygen. But Karen, welcome to the Roundtable. Thanks for being here. Also joining us, and we'll get to her in just a second, from Los Angeles, California, will be a guest who has a bestseller right now on Barnes & Noble bestseller list, and she talks about matchmaking and making your relationships better. But Pat, as we get into the crux of this conversation, and I finally get around to a question, why have a program like this the last couple of years here in Toledo?
Well, Heartbeat, our basic goal is to help women who are, first of all, facing a pregnancy, and then helping them through parenthood. We do prenatal and parenting classes.
These are mostly single
mostly,
moms
yes,
to be?
Yes, primarily, although we have some dads in the program as well. But we've been doing this for more than 40 years. So we've been around, and we do prenatal and parenting classes. And as we saw the young women coming through our classes, we noticed that we were really doing a lot to help them to be better parents, but we were noticing a lot of issues with their relationships, and just felt like we needed to address that as well, because having a good relationship is certainly going to help the whole family life. It's going to help them to be better parents and make for a happier situation. It's also going to make them happier as well.
And I'm glad that Don's here to kind of touch on the male perspective of this. Obviously, it plays into it. Karen, as you put this program forward, and one of the goals and one of the focuses is to reach out to not only those who are in the situation currently, but give them the tools a little bit earlier. How have you guys gone about doing that?
The reaching out?
Yeah, just making sure they know what relationship smarts are all about at a younger age.
Well, what we're doing is we're having those young women come in and do these classes and do these groups, and just trying to help them to look at what is it that I'm looking for, and am I making decisions that support that, so that they're doing that earlier in their situation.
What are the biggest problem areas?
I think a lot of the challenges that a lot of I see these young women having are they don't have confidence in themselves. So when they run into a problem in their relationship, they're real quick to just take the blame themselves, take the responsibility and say, oh, are my expectations reasonable? Am I setting limits and boundaries that even make sense, or should I be evaluating those instead of even looking at the possibility that it's just not a good relationship, or there's some things that they need to do to work on that or to evaluate that.
And the problem with, a lot of our culture in our day and age, and even here we're reporting about domestic violence situations, and that is when the relationship has gone awry very badly. And Adon, how is this the goal, to try to step in there and make it proactive versus reactive for you guys?
Absolutely. I think that one of the things is that we really have to target the young men as well. Sometimes we don't, as young men, don't really understand our role as protectors in a relationship. One of the goals that we have to do is...
Do you think that's even more important than reaching out to the women?
Absolutely. Well, I think it's equally as important, because I think that as men, our job is to protect our women, to protect our families, but who's going to protect them from us? If we're the ones inflicting the damage on them, who's going to protect them? Mm-hmm. So my goal as working with the young men, working with fathers, even going into the schools and with the program I work with Positive Choices, is to be able to work with them and really teach them about manhood, about what their role is as protectors, in relationships, and even as just citizens of society.
Do you think a lot of these young people enter with blinders on, thinking everything's going to be cream cheese as far as relationships go?
I think they don't really understand or know what relationship, a good, healthy relationship is about. Mm-hmm. And I think that's what the Relationship Smarts is about.
And one of the things you pointed out before we started today is because of the examples they get. Absolutely.
And the examples, you can talk about, things that they may see at home, even with their own friends, in the culture. And no offense, but also the media. There's a lot of different things in the media that are being shown of what relationships are supposed to be like. Mm-hmm. However, a lot of those aren't healthy.
Yeah, you went through the program, Ellen, and as you look back and now being a volunteer and trying to share your knowledge of what you learned, what you experienced, that kind of thing, how do you translate it? Not only learning it, but also teaching it.
Well, first off, they give you materials to take home, and I believe that those are things that you should continually review, because
what was your situation like for our viewers at home, so they understand?
I have a difficult situation, and it has improved over time, but I just still wasn't feeling. I am a mom. Okay. But I was still feeling like I wasn't happy, and I really just didn't know why. So I signed up to take the class, and then my daughter, who is 20, wanted to join me in that class. And I also noticed that she wasn't really having what I considered good relationships, so we went to the class together, and it helped us both kind of identify some things that we weren't really doing. Communication was key. Yeah. Weren't really doing that with each other or with the people that we were with. So
was there strength in numbers for the two of you being together on something like this?
No, I tried to keep her, just see her as another participant in the class, not as my daughter, so that I wouldn't, interfere with what she was trying to learn from the class.
You nodded your head in agreement to making that move.
It was awesome to watch, and they did a great job with that. But when you said the strength in numbers, it made me think of the group, and that first group that I did that Ellen was part of. The whole strength of that whole group together was really, really fun to watch, and how people have different insight when they're listening to somebody else, and they were so supportive of each other and so insightful about each other's challenges, and there really was a lot of strength that came from them being there in a group as opposed to just an individual conversation.
We're glad to have with us, joining us from Los Angeles, California this afternoon. She's got a #1 bestseller right now on Barnes & Noble's bestseller list, The Matchmaker of the Century. Her name is Helen Chen. She is joining us via Skype this afternoon. First and foremost, thanks for being here. You've been listening in. What are some of those keys you try to profess to folks as far as healthy relationships are concerned, Helen?
Just like they say, the key is communication. So very important, you always stay like a queue, and then you're talking to people with a lot of energy, instead of like you tell people the bad thing, you tell people how's your worry and how you don't like this life and all that kind of things. You're making people don't understand you. Just like, we have this text, this smartphone we can use, but the most important is you're so sincere to people, and you really, really talk to them, and you're honest. Otherwise, you're making the relationship become very dry and very uncomfortable, and then you're making the speed of the people getting together become longer and longer because you're talking slow and you're talking not really express yourself. So most important is the men know how to talk the sweet talk to the men, and then most of the mother and the people together, you have to sincere and you really let them know you care about them. And you have to repeat these type of things, being cute and being energetic and always really, really talk. Doesn't matter how long, how short you talk, but never talk about your worries. Don't talk about how you don't like them do this, don't like them do that. That just hurt the relationship. Always focus on the positive, their good point, not their bad point. Not always want them to correct. That really threw people off.
Helen has got a bestseller right now in Barnes & Noble. Don, you were listening to some of what she said, and she was talking specifically, I guess, the secret to making relationships good nowadays is going old school and just making sure that there are actual conversations happening, physical, personal, face to face.
Right. It's I think that, when you're talking about the smartphone, you're talking about technology, it's supposed to keep us connected, but it really, I agree. I think that it does make us more disconnected, as far as the technology. So, my wife and I, we have a rule that, when we have dinner, when we're together, when we're hanging out, that there's no cell phones, no cell phones at the table, no cell phones. And I think that that's really important because if I'm doing this the whole time and she's talking to me and I'm just responding with no real emotion or really connected with what she's saying, then yeah, it's going to kill the relationship. So I think that
and you're going to be in the doghouse.
Absolutely. Right. Yes, which I have decorated and looks really good right now, many times now.
A 90-minute session starting up this week, focusing on topics such as communication, respect, love, intimacy, and more. This is a free 6-week program. We're going to get more into this program put on by Heartbeat of Toledo. Talk more with Helen Shen out west right now, joining us via Skype. When we return here on the Roundtable, stay with us.